Hey guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is so very special. I'm not looking forward to this, but this video we're going to talk about the palettes that we have not used till this time, and we are at the end of July right now, at least the time that I'm filming right now, and I have 43 palettes in front of me that I've not touched in the first 7 months, and that actually it's a little triggering, okay? I won't lie. So if you want to see what are the palettes in my collection that I've not used as yet, please keep on watching. Let's begin. I have somewhat arranged this brand by brand. Some of the palettes I might not be using because it's an older palette, and not because it's expired or anything, because if I feel like it is expired, I have not put it in the collection. But there are some of the older palettes that I still used till about last year and I'm not using right now. So let's start off with those. Woodens Eye. In the Woodens Eye palettes, I have the Red Dragon palette and the Hummingbird palette that I have not used. Hummingbird palette, I feel like I only use it for this shade. Rest of the palettes, I feel like now I'm a little scared too, because I did use the Giant Wolves palette, like a deeper shade in the outer corners, and after that is when I had that bump on my eye. So I don't know if that is like, obviously this is expired. It says 36 months and it's definitely been more than 2 years for sure, till the time it came. These two I've not used, but I did use like the shimmers from the Giant Wolves palette too, and I did not find any problem. So maybe I will use, because there are certain shades that I absolutely love, especially the multi-chrome shades that I absolutely love, and I can see myself grabbing onto those shades. But let's see if this is still going to be at zero usage towards the end of the year. That's what I want to know actually. Like towards the end of the year, which of these palettes are still going to be at the bottom of the list. Okay, the next brand that I'm going to talk about is Pat McGrath. Can you imagine? I've spent so much money and I have not used it even once this year, and this is the Celestial Odyssey palette from Pat McGrath, and this is one of the holiday palettes. Tell me what's not to love about it. I mean, these are all wearable tones. These are all my kind of tones, and still I have not used it. This is so ridiculous, Smithy. So ridiculous that you've not used it. I'm going to keep it in front of me in the vanity and see if I am going to reach out for these palettes or not, okay? The next palette that I did not use is from Hindash, and this is the Monochromance palette. I do use the Beautopsy palette because I feel like that's more like everyday tones. These are more like colorful but pastel tones, but still it's very on the wearable side. So I definitely can see myself like grabbing onto this. I think these are magnetic. Let me see if this is, oh no, it's not. I thought it was magnetic somehow, but it is sticking to it. If it was magnetic, I could have definitely seen myself like traveling by mixing and matching the shades. But nevertheless, I feel like I definitely need to dip into this palette because I do love these Hindash's palette. These are more like watercolor pastel. These are not like opaque mattes that would be sticking onto the eyelids at like one pass. That's not this palette. This is more for like an everyday use. This is more of an eye and a face palette both. So if you keep that in mind, I think if you have it in your collection, you would love it. I definitely want to use this even more. The next brand that we're going to talk about is Melt Cosmetics, and I have not tried. Actually, I have one more palette from Melt. That is the Mariposa palette. So count 44 palettes, okay? Let me get it actually. So I have 3 palettes from Melt that I've not used. This is the Mariposa palette. Again, I don't know how many times I've used this palette. I really don't know. Very, very specific time frame. And this is not the palette that I purchased when it just came out. I recently purchased this at like a very, very discount. Not recently, but like it's been 2 years I think that I've purchased this, but again not used it for a long time. So again at zero usage right now. I have 2 more palettes from Melt, Melt, the Gemini and the Gemini 2 palette. Now last year I did use the Gemini 2 palette so much, and this is such a beautiful color story for so many people. I think I've stopped using Melt from the time I did have like one situation that happened with Melt Gemini 2, which this shade was a different shade altogether, and I did see some kind of a moldiness that was coming out of that palette. So I did press some other shade into this palette, but after that I've not used it. I actually loved mattes. I really loved melt for the mattes. So, but I've not used it as yet, which actually baffles my mind that I'm not using this. Oh my gosh. This video is like such an eye opener, I cannot even tell you. Okay, now let's move on to Gourmand Girls. I have 4 palettes from Gourmand Girls sitting in front of me that I've not used as yet. Spooked palette. And I feel like I do use this palette, especially in the Halloween season, which I've not been gravitating towards this palette, at least from like winter and spring months. It's a beautiful palette. You know how much I loved this palette, but again, a shame that I've not used it. Silent Night palette, which is their neutral palette with a twist of blue and gold. That one. Then I have the Haunted palette from them. I love the mattes in this palette, but again, I don't know how much I love that I'm not using it. And last, certainly not the least, is the Calavera palette. This palette is definitely more loud, so I would have thought that I would not be using this so much. But again, not even one usage is a little bit of crime, I must say. Okay, now let's move on to the next brand. And the next brand is Simply Posh Cosmetics. I just have one palette from them that I have not used, and I do have several palettes from Simply Posh Cosmetics. The only palette that I have not used is the Genuine Gems palette, which is a discontinued palette, but this is more of a jewel toned palette, which I generally do see myself using in the fall season. Okay, now let's move on to Glaminatrix Cosmetics. Yes, there is one palette that I've not used from Glaminatrix Cosmetics until now, and this is the Pretty in Pastels palette. Again, because it's a pastel palette, this is not the first thing that I gravitate towards, especially color story wise, but I do like this palette because of the deeper mattes in this palette. So I definitely want to customize a palette according to my color story, according to the color story that I like, and I do want to get some pieces of this palette into that palette. Then I think I would use a little bit of shades in this palette too. So I'll definitely do something like that in the future so that I use these palettes even more. So that's Pretty in Pastels palette. Now let's talk about Natasha Denona. There is one palette from Natasha Denona that I have not used as yet, and that is a mini palette, and this is a mini love palette from her. This is, I feel like I'm not the person who's gravitated towards the mini eyeshadow palettes from Natasha Denona. I love her midi size eyeshadow palette. I think it's getting time for her to release her fall release, so we'll see what she's coming out for us. But this is a palette, Mauves, I love, and this is the only mini palette I think I have in my collection from her. I did have a few more, but which I passed it along to my friends and family, but this is the only palette that I kept because I love these like purpley tones on the eyes. This shimmer is absolutely beautiful, but again, not used it as yet, so shame. Now let's talk about Too Faced. I have 2 palettes from Too Faced that I have not used as yet for this year, and this is a big shocker. Natural Nudes. Yeah, the Natural Nudes from Too Faced. I forgot the name also. And such a beautiful nude palette. I really loved this palette, especially for the mattes. I really loved it. For an everyday use, I feel like this is such a beautiful palette, but again, not using it, so I don't know what to do with it. And the other one is the Pumpkin Spice palette. Again, this was such a hit, like a #1 palette in one of the years, like 2022 or 2023, but again, not used it as yet. It still smells like pumpkin, which, you know how much I love that. Okay, let's talk about Nely Rain. I have one palette from Nely Rain that I've not used, and it's not a shocker for me, and this is What the Fox palette. This is their green palette. I actually do love these 2 shades really much because of that multi-chrome shade and obviously that burgundy shade, but rest of the shades I definitely can see myself, like this is such a beautiful multi-chrome shade, but because it's such an electric green and I'm not a big green person, that's why I've not gravitated towards it. I feel like if I do depot this and put it in some other palette, I would definitely use this. So we'll see it in future if we do use it coming in the future or not. Now let's move on to Nabla Cosmetics, and I have all the palettes. I have 3 palettes from Nabla Cosmetics and all the palettes are there, which is such a shame because I love Nabla matte so very much, but I've again not reached out for it, so big shame. This is the Berry palette. Beautiful palette, you guys. Beautiful palette. I don't know what's wrong with me. The Platinum palette. Again, a beautiful neutral tone palette. I'm holding this because I know that it's mashed up. So I don't know. But yeah, I have absolutely loved this palette so very much, but clearly not enough. And then I do have their Secret palette. There you go. These are a little bit obviously like older in my collection. That's why I've not reached out for it. But I used to love these shades so very much. Ugh, such a shame, Smithy. This is such a shameful act because I feel like these are the palettes that I absolutely loved once in my life, and now I'm not using it. And this comes from Nabla Cosmetics, and this is the Latte Palette. Who remembers me from Latte Palette time? I used to wear this all the time. I used to love this palette. I love the mattes in this palette so very much. Oh my gosh, this brings back so many memories. I wish it was at least like magnetic. Oh my gosh, this is so pretty. I feel so sad. Okay, now let's talk about Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I have 4 palettes sitting in front of me that I've not used. Jackie Aina palette. Now this is definitely, this is definitely an expired palette. This is my first palette that I used on my channel, so that's why I've kept this. But again, time and time I have reached out for these palettes, but I think it's definitely expired. For now, I have loved this palette so very much, and I've used this palette also so very much, but not clearly enough to get a dent in this palette, so that's a big shame. The next palette is the Subculture palette, and this was not, I didn't buy this at the time when it was released. I bought it like years later when this was like on a sale or something, but again, not used it enough. Then I do have their Amrezy palette. Again, I love the tones of browns in this palette, but clearly not used it. And this is a big shocker from Anastasia that I've not used, and this is the Norvina 5 palette. Oh my gosh, this is my color story and I've still not used it. That is such a big shame. I'm going to keep this out. There are certain palettes that I am keeping right now outside so that I at least use it coming in the future. So we'll see how that rolls. Next we have the Artist Couture palette. This is the Supreme Nudes palette. This is such a beautiful palette, but again, I have not used this, not even once in this year. Again, big shame, I would say. Now let's move into Belbel Cosmetics. I know Belbel Cosmetics is not available anymore, but I do have the palettes and I do reach out for their palettes so very much. But there are 3 palettes that I've not used as yet. This is not a shocker to me. This is the Fruity Realm palette. It's a super colorful palette, so I generally do use this only in very specific situation, but I love the quality of this palette. And then this is a shocker that I did not use, and this is the Under the Full Moon palette. I definitely can see myself using this coming in the future because this is such a beautiful winter palette according to me. I really love it. Actually, I just had 2 palettes from them that I've not used so far. Now let's talk about Sugar Drizzle. I have a lot of Sugar Drizzle palette that I have not used. Oh my gosh, there's so many palettes. Okay, let's start off with Trick Raw Treat palette from Sugar Drizzle. Again, this was such a beautiful fall time color story that I had loved. I don't even know what to say. Oh my gosh. Red Panda palette. Who remembers this? I thought I did use this year. Did I not? Because I love these neutral shimmers on my eyes. Oh my gosh, Smithy. MILF palette. This is how my love affair started for Sugar Drizzle. Now I feel like they're not coming out with this standard of eyeshadow palettes. Now it's more like satiny. It doesn't give that much punch, at least the ones that I've used recently. But these palettes were such a gem. Trashed palette. I am ashamed of myself. Plumeria palette. Don't Forget to Smile palette. And finally, the Mattes palette. This is such a beautiful quality palette. If you love purples, obviously you don't need so many purples, but such a beautiful palette. Yeah, I was impressed by it. Now let's talk about Alter Ego. I have 3 palettes in front of me that I've not used so far, and one is the Canyon palette, which dupes the Natasha Denona bronze palette. Talking about that, I think Natasha Denona bronze is discontinued. I don't find her on her website anymore. This is the Sahara palette that dupes the Biba palette, and then the Goddess palette that dupes the gold palette. These are the top of the top palettes according to like color story wise as well as the formula wise that I loved from Alter Ego, but still not used it. Okay, let's talk about Glam Light. I have a few palettes from Glam Light, Chocolate Martini and Dirty Martini, that I've not used. This was such a beautiful palette. Oh my gosh, this was such a beautiful palette. And Dirty Martini is such a beautiful green palette. Very, very versatile palette in my opinion. I really love this. Oh, so pretty. From Wicked Widow Beauty, we have 2 palettes to talk about. Lovesick palette, that looks like this. And then we have the Graveyard Smash palette that looks like this. This is such a beautiful palette, especially for Halloween season. I'm pretty sure I will get this out. So pretty. And finally, we have MBA Cosmetics, which I have 2 palettes from MBA Cosmetics that I have not used so far. This is the Sunset Beach palette. Super colorful. Pretty one tone, I would say, but the formula was really good. And then the Moonlit Marsh palette. This palette's shimmers are very pretty. Very pretty. I was just not a big fan of their mattes in this palette, but the shimmers was absolutely outstanding. So those were the 43 palettes that I did not use for this year, and I really hope that I use at least half of the palettes that I did talk right now, and I do not talk about these palettes towards the end of the year, because my motive is to use as many palettes that I have in my collection, and even if I use it like once or twice, I would be happy and I won't feel like guilty that I'm not using it. But at this moment of time, this is like it's like a shameful moment for me that I have so many palettes that I've not touched, which I'm not proud of one bit. But that's all for today, guys. If you did like my video, you know what to do. Do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. You guys let me know. Support this. Do you have any palettes in your collection that you have not used this year? Sound it down in the comment section below, especially the palettes that you have absolutely loved in the past few years and now you're not using it. I cannot even get over this. That's all for today. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.